It just was really weird, and I didn't get anything that was going on. Like, I didn't even know where I was.
Hailey Steimel recalls the sense of fear she had when she first woke up from her 11-hour surgery.
They were like, do you want to listen to your heart? And I remember I was like, I can't hear anything. I didn't get it, and I started crying. And then I kind of looked around, and there was a sign that said, like, happy heart transplant, Hailey. And that's when I kind of remembered why I was there. But I was crying because I didn't believe I got the heart.
And then an unidentified infection set in.
Unfortunately, we could have very easily have lost her after transplant. She was dreadfully ill when she got that infection.
But Hailey fought back, just like she's done so many times in her 18 years. She was born 1 minute after her twin sister with a congenital heart defect seen in only 1 of every 400 children, a transposition of the great arteries.
So what that meant was the red blood went back to the lungs, and the blue blood kept circulating around the body. So that's a condition that's not compatible with life.
So Hailey's first open heart surgery happened in her first week, and the artery that would normally be pumping to the body was narrowing, so yet another procedure.
They actually baffle the inflow to the heart to switch that to make up for the switched outflow.
All's good, right? Well, Hailey's right ventricle eventually failed, and her condition got worse. So she became the first pediatric patient of her kind in the country to receive what's called a heartwear device.
That's a little pump that actually got inserted into her right ventricle that was pumping to her body.
That rare, successful procedure stabilized Hailey and made her the focus of a medical case study.
Not many people get things written about them in like a medical journal thing. So it's kind of like, you know, because of me, I'm going to be saving other people's lives.
Hailey carried that pump around for 4 months as she waited for a donor heart.
Initially, we just cried. We didn't even know what to think. And I felt kind of bad because Hailey had actually asked me a few different times, well, am I ever going to need a heart transplant?
Hi, everyone.
Everyone now knows the answer to that question.
And I will be going down to surgery at 1.
And through it all, Hailey has been filled with gratitude for the tremendous support she's received, especially from her twin sister.
I asked her before, you know, like, if you could have gotten this instead of me, would you have wanted the transplant more if I didn't have to go through this? And she honestly told me no, because I couldn't, like, be a fighter like you, because she's more scared of, like, needles and all that stuff.
That's probably what stirs up my emotions the most. It hasn't, not that I didn't cry during other things or whatever, but listening to Hope and Hailey talk.
There's one bigger one. So throughout the whole thing, I just thought that she was going to be okay, because she didn't come this far to not make it.
Hailey says she's really looking forward to her senior prom, and in college, she'll likely pursue something in the medical field. Right now, her mission is to encourage everyone to sign up to be an organ donor.
I just wish people would, you know, donate life.
I had a cardiac event on January 19th, 2014, and I go down every year in January to see an old college friend of mine. We spend a few days reliving old memories and having a little bit of wine and whiskey along the way and eating unhealthily. So this was the last day we were together. It was a Sunday, and we decided to go out for lunch. It was just after that meal, as we were walking out, that we take a long walk along a river that's down in that location. And I just didn't feel right. As we got to the park and began our walk, in hindsight, he noticed me continuing to look down at my hand and squeezing it. And really the first major symptom was a pain, a pulling sensation in the middle of my back on each side of my spine, sort of pulling the spine apart. And I just felt off. And so it wasn't only a few hundred yards into our typically 2-mile walk that I said, you know, I just don't think I'm going to do this. You go on and continue. And I turned around and took very small steps back to the parking lot. My friends got back within about an hour, and we got in the car and said, do you feel okay? And I said, sort of. Let's see what happens. But it became more pronounced. The feeling of discomfort was more pronounced. The tingling sensations were more pronounced. A little bit of heat flushing began to occur. It was probably about 5 p.m. So 5 hours after this whole sequence started where the very pronounced pressure in the chest. And for anybody that's ever had it, it's very distinctive. You can't mistake it. It's a deep, solid pressure on the chest. And as soon as I felt that, I said, it's time to go to the hospital. I walked in the door, walked up the disc, and I said, I have heart pain and pressure. And immediately they had put me in there, and they put the probes on. And within 3 minutes, they said, yes, you're having a heart attack right now. My first thought, of course, was I need to call my wife. So I'm not sure anybody can really imagine being on the receiving end of that phone call, 1,000 miles away from your loved one. And I call and say, Ann, I'm having a heart attack right now. You can anticipate the emotional reaction, but once in the procedure room, they put me up on the table, and I made the call to my parents. And I called, and my dad answered the phone, and I said, hi, Dad, I have some news to tell you. Can you get Mom? All I can remember was a massive amount of heat rushed through my body, and I was disoriented, and I said, it's really hot in here. And the next thing I know, I open my eyes, and I'm laying on a table, and a young doctor's looking at me and says, don't make me do that again. I just had to shock you. You were gone. They took me at this point down the hallway, and the doors open, and the helicopter's waiting 100 feet away. And that distance, that 100 feet, was a very important 100 feet. Because at that point, I didn't know if I was going to make it. It was an experience. I registered everything in that 100 feet. The sound of the crickets and some traffic on the far off, the smell of the open pasture and the river that was nearby. And I spent every second of that trip across that 100 feet just burning the Milky Way into my memory, thinking that, this might be it. So bring it all in, bring everything into you. They put me in the helicopter. It's much tighter in there than you think it is. The gauges and instrument panels are just over your head as you're laying on the stretcher, gurney, whatever it is. And I spent 17 minutes in the air, traveling from Lake Jackson to Houston. And that 17 minutes was a long time. You go through a lot of thoughts when you're in that moment. For me, it started with my wife. She's a strong, beautiful, passionate woman. She's going to be fine financially. My family is in a good place. It'll be okay. And then I went to my lovely daughter, Caitlin, my little bear, my pride. And she's 18 now, and I knew that she's turned out okay. She's going to make it. She'll be fine. And then I get to my adventurous son, who's 23 now, and the tallest Knierim ever made. So, I think the struggle he made it through, and the success he's had right now, and the launch point he's at in life, and I think he's okay. Everything's going to be okay if this doesn't turn out the way I want to. And you go through more thoughts. You go through your life very quickly, and you think, I haven't always been the best person. Far from it. And it's not necessarily negotiation with God, or in my case, but it was more an acknowledgement, like, if you get out of this, you can do a lot better, so perhaps you should. It was such a relief to get on the ground again, because I thought at that moment, you know what, I think I'm going to make this. It's been a year, it's been a little over a year. My wife calls it my 1-year birthday. And it's taken the full year to get confident in myself that I could move across the world and not have to worry every minute that the next minute I won't be here.